David, do we have a quorum present?
Yes, ma'am. You have 5.
All right, thank you. That was what I was counting in the squares in front of me. Okay, so good evening. Today is December 16, 2020, and it is 5:31. As a quorum of the board is in attendance, I would like to call to order the meeting of the Central Health Board of Managers. The first item of business is the public hearing. This evening's hearing is the official public hearing required by the Texas Health and Safety Code. Notice of this evening's public hearing was published in the Austin Chronicle on Friday, December 11th, 2020. The hearing will begin with staff's presentation of the proposed amended mandatory payment rate. At the conclusion of the presentation, we will invite comments from the public. So number 1, receive public comment on the proposed mandatory payment rate to be assessed on the institutional healthcare providers during fiscal year 2021 under the Local Healthcare Provider Participation Program, LPPF, in Travis County, and how the revenues derived from those payments is to be spent as required by Texas Health and Safety Code, Section 298E.101. Katie Coburn will be presenting. Katie, thank you.
Thank you, Chair Greenberg. Just as a reminder, I know we, as a board, and we have presented this to the public before, but the LPPF mandatory payment rate is a mandatory payment that the board assesses a uniform percentage of net patient revenue of Travis County inpatient hospitals. The rate is set by the Board of Managers. Then Central Health staff, as the LPPF.
Sorry, Katie, could I, Madam Chair, if I could encourage everyone on the call to please mute your audio. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike. So Central Health, as the administrator, collects these funds held in a fiduciary capacity and uses the dollars to complete intergovernmental transfers on behalf of hospitals who are eligible for Medicaid supplemental payments that those local dollars draw down. As you mentioned, Chair Greenberg, the uses of these funds are limited to the legislative purposes outlined in the law, which are essentially the Medicaid supplemental payments. Central Health staff collaborate with hospital representatives on use of these funds. Our FY20 rate changed a bit over the years. Y'all remember, we finally settled on 2.38%. And tonight we're going to be talking about a proposed rate for FY21. So next slide, please. So the payment rate staff would like to recommend to the board this evening for FY21 is 1.66% of net patient revenue. That rate will generate approximately $58 million in local funds to be used for intergovernmental transfers this next year. Specifically, this rate generates the local portion for fiscal year 21 uncompensated care payments to hospitals, additional UC payments previously withheld due to the chat lawsuit, so we're still paying out those withheld funds, and the Europe program year 5 advanced payment. Europe again stands for the Uniform Hospital Rate Increase Program. And as I have mentioned in the past to you all and to the public, the Europe program is going through changes. HHSC is revising how it functions. And those changes aren't final, and as a result, we really don't have enough information to make a year-long estimate about how much IGT will be needed. So this rate contemplates only the first of 2 Europe payments next year. So what we are recommending tonight is you all set an annual payment rate based on the best information we have available right now at 1.66%. Although we are thinking of this as a preliminary rate, and we anticipate that we will have to come back to you later in the year to amend the rate once we have additional information about the rate from HHSC. And that concludes my remarks right now.
Thank you very much. Members of the public who wish to make comments during the public hearing must have registered with Central Health via the online form or by telephone no later than 4 p.m. today. Anise, did anyone register to make comments for the public hearing?
No, Madam Chair, not for the public hearing.
Okay, since we have no one registered to make comments for the public hearing.
I believe I registered.
Oh, sorry,
Zach, I believe you registered for the public communication portion. Is that correct?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry for the confusion. Thank you.
Sure, no, it gets to be a lot to keep track of. This is for the public communication for the public hearing. We will move to that next. Thank you, Zach. Thank you for being here. Since there are no members of the public who have registered to speak for this public hearing, then I am ready to accept a motion to close the public hearing.
Madam Chair, I move that the board close the public hearing.
There's a motion by Manager Bell. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A second by Manager Musaitov. All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Any abstaining? Okay. Thank you, members. So at this time, I will close the public hearing of the Central Health Board regarding the proposed mandatory payment rate to be assessed on institutional healthcare providers during fiscal year 2021 under the local healthcare provider participation program at 5:37 p.m. on Wednesday, December 16th. All right, thank you, everyone. We will now proceed to public communication for our board meeting. Members of the public who wish to make comments during the public communication portion of this board meeting must have registered with Central Health via the online form or by telephone no later than 4 p.m. today. Anise, did anyone register to make comments for this portion of the meeting?
Yes, we have 4 community members signed up to speak, so I will go ahead and read the guidelines.
Thank you, Anise.
To be recognized to speak, you must request a speaking slot using our public communication online registration form or by leaving a voicemail by 90 minutes prior to the start of the meeting. Individuals are asked their preference language as they register to speak, and both online form and voicemail greeting are in English and Spanish. When called upon to speak, please introduce yourself by name before beginning your comments. Also, if your comments will focus on a specific item or issue on the agenda, please indicate the full item number. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Staff will be timing each speaker and will announce when a speaker has reached their limit. To ensure the efficiency of the meeting, once we have let speakers know when they've reached their time limit, we will allow 30 more seconds to wrap up their comments before they are muted. Once again, speakers will be muted at 3.5 minutes to ensure the efficiency of the meeting. Due to the restrictions of the Open Meetings Act, the board may be restricted in discussing any items that are not listed on the agenda for this meeting. The board may choose to set aside any new issues for discussion at a future meeting. And at this time, I will call on our first speaker, Mr. Zach Webb.
Thank you. I'm Zach Webb. I'm speaking today because I'm sure that every board member shares my complete shock that the most recent Austin City Council meeting, they voted not to reappoint Julie Oliver to serve another term on the Board of Central Health. Surely this must be some sort of mistake or a simple oversight, because otherwise we surely have heard about the horrible sins that Julie Oliver must have committed to justify her becoming the first board member in Central Health's history to not be reappointed, despite her clear desire to continue serving Travis County. The very first member essentially removed from the board, but Julie's had no blemishes like that, not even the smallest technicalities like missing board members. She ran for Congress on a platform of providing healthcare and still managed to make meetings. Can you imagine? She never shirked any duty while running for Congress. And not only that, she has the strongest moral compass of any public servant I know, strong enough to change minds and help achieve things like preserving health insurance for 24,000 low-income residents. And I'm sure the board members that share my ideals of justice are also beginning to feel a little angry and maybe a little bewildered. We're wondering what reasons could Austin City Council have for removing her. Some say they were just following the recommendation from the Health and Human Services Committee, but we don't really know what drove that recommendation because that committee's deliberation was made in a closed-door executive session. Why was her application for reappointment submitted over a month ago either lost in the shuffle or deliberately pulled from consideration? Why was she not given the courtesy of a single call from her appointers, the council, or even those in the committee who surely knew that the spot was not vacant? We can only speculate on the source of the egregious oversight or what reasons they might have to justify the decision. And I'm sure all the board members are wondering, as I am, why the council members would so readily throw out the only board member who has legal expertise, who has tax structure expertise, in healthcare no less, the only board member with accounting expertise, the best person we could ask for to decipher financial documents and project into the future. And with Central Health being a tax-funded, legally constructed healthcare entity with a financial budget of over 300 million bucks, it seems incredibly short-sighted for the council to throw out an expert with all the exact skills the Central Health Board needs. And I'm sure each and every board member is alarmed by the sudden notice and mysterious circumstances. Who among you could be next to suddenly and swiftly get the axe without word of advance notice? The level of disrespect that must exist to not even make a board member aware of their own termination, to pretend as if they don't exist and are totally unworthy of even a simple check-in call. The council, and more specifically the members of the Health and Human Services Committee, made a monumental error and did not offer even the basic level of respect a member of the Central Health Board, let alone a party-nominated congressional candidate, or even a human being deserves. They must rescind the decision they made last Thursday without giving it even a full minute of consideration, and reappoint Julie Oliver to the Central Health Board for another term. If it requires a special session, whatever makes it happen. But you have to right this wrong, because whether it occurred through callousness, clumsiness, or calculated conspiracy, the appointed public services, like you all, who give so much to the community, deserve to be treated by our council members with respect. Thank you.
Thank you, Anais.
Our next speaker is Miss Barbara Fitante.
Hi, my name is Barbara Fitante, and I'm also here to speak about Julie Oliver remaining on the board. The role of Central Health is to provide access to high quality health care for everyone. And it's my understanding that Julie did reapply to be a member of the board on November 15th. So I think that there's been a misunderstanding that it's my understanding that there's been a misunderstanding and that Julie's application is actually not in the stack of applications that was presented to the Health and Human Services Committee at City Council. You all know about Julie's experience in accounting and as a lawyer, and that experience is invaluable to Central Health. I think it's important to have someone on the board who can review the contracts for financial accountability. Julie was and will, I hope, continue to be a strong force for accountability and transparency on the board. I know I want someone on the board who understands the need for high quality health care facilities in the eastern part of our county, and I know that Julie has advocated for that in the past. I'm asking you to reconsider Julie on the board, and that might mean going back to the City Council and trying to figure out what actually happened and how this error was made. So I think that this was an honest mistake and that Julie will be reconsidered. And obviously, if it wasn't a mistake, then I would like to understand why she was not considered for reappointment. Thank you.
You'll have to address that to the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Roy Woody. Mr. Woody, if you are with us, will you please unmute your line? Madam Chair, we do have one more, so I can skip to that last one and then come back to Mr. Woody.
Certainly, let's do that. There can be technical difficulties, and I want him to have the opportunity. So let's see if he can make it on, and we'll come back to him.
Okay, sounds great. I'm going to call Latrice Cook. Ms. Cook, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi. Well, good afternoon to all the board members and person that's listening. I am Latrice Cook. I'm the founder and executive director for Melch Center, and we assist those persons that have previously been incarcerated and their families. And I just felt compelled to speak to you all, especially in light of everything that is going on, and as a representative of a very left out population of persons, basically those persons that have gone to prison, who are residents of Travis and the city of Austin that we serve. We are a resource provider for this particular population, and I am concerned, especially throughout this pandemic and as people are being released from Del Valley, that there's not a concentrated effort to ensure that these persons have access to healthcare, appropriate healthcare. And when saying that, many of the people, many of our program participants who we see who have come out of prison who are at high risk of having Hep C and other different things that are contracted from being incarcerated, they don't have MAP cards and they're not really familiar with how to access the system in order to be able to have this. And I think that this is critical and crucial that there be a provider or someone in the community that is focused on this particular population and increase their accessibility not only to the MAP cards, but MAP cards which actually give them access to healthcare providers and healthcare. And so I am asking for you all to really do an in-look at how we can somehow not just partner, because partnerships are fruitless if they don't come with the things in order to help a partner be successful in actually doing an outreach to this particular population, but that you all really seriously look at some way of actually being a part of helping us to help this particular population be exposed to and have actual not access, but actually being able to get these cards and the access that they need to the healthcare providers. And I just wanted to say that because I just think in light of everything that has gone on with the issues that are facing the minority community, specifically Black people who are inordinately, they are the biggest part of the prison system. And so as a person who deals directly with parolees on an everyday basis, and even those who have been cleared of parole, we would like to really extend the assistance to be able to help with this. So thank you all and Merry Christmas.
Thank you all. Thank you. And thank you for your service to our community and for bringing this to our attention, and have a good night. Thank you.
Welcome.
I'm going to call one more time on Mr. Roy Woody, see if he's been able to join us.
Excuse me, Roy Woody was driving and unable to download the software to get into here. He might call in later, but for the moment he cannot call.
Okay, thank you. David or Chair Greenberg, would you all like to call on him later on if he makes it?
Chair Greenberg, you're muted. Okay.
I'm sorry. David, what do we need to do here?
It's at your discretion, ma'am. You can close the public comment, or you can accept it later.
He's, from what I heard, he's on his way. Is that correct? He's trying to get someplace.
Yes, he was driving until about 5:45 and he was trying to sign on. I think I advised him to try and use the telephone sign on if he could.
Right. Well, as I said, I understand it's difficult and there can be technical difficulties, whether it's trying to join by phone or Zoom. So let me ask David Duncan, our attorney, can I just leave it open? And if he gets here, I can ask Anise to let me know.
Yes, ma'am. That's your discretion.
Okay. Well, let's do that since he's been having these technical difficulties.
Thank you. Okay.
Sure. Of course. Okay. All right. So Anise, are there any other speakers at this time?
No, ma'am, not at this time.
Okay, so then at this time, we will proceed to the consent agenda. Agenda item number C1, receive the quarterly investment report and ratify Central Health investments for November 2020. Item number 2, receive a report on and accept the preliminary November 2020 financial statements for Central Health and the Community Care Collaborative as recommended by the Budget and Finance Committee. Item number C3, approve the reappointment of Pilar Sanchez and Tom Coopwood, MD, to the Community Care Health Center's Board of Directors as recommended by the Executive Committee.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Manager Bell.
I move that the board approve consent agenda items C1 through C3.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
I can second.
I think I may have heard Manager Zamora. Did I hear you, Manager Zamora?
You did.
Okay, sorry.
You did.
So we have a motion by Manager Bell, a second by Manager Zamora. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Any abstaining? All right, thank you, members. We will now move to the regular agenda. Item number 1 is discuss and take appropriate action on the proposed mandatory payment rate to be assessed on institutional healthcare providers during fiscal year 2021 under the Local Provider Participation Program, open paren, LPPF, close paren, in Travis County, and how the revenue derived from those payments is to be spent as required by Texas Health and Safety Code, Section 298E.151. Katie Coburn will be presenting. Katie?
You're muted, Katie.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Sure.
I don't have any further comments, but if managers have questions, I'm happy to take them.
We had a presentation in our public hearing. Managers, are there any further comments or questions?
Chair Greenberg, I have just one question.
Of course.
Since this is a provider tax for the healthcare providers in our region, were they okay? I mean, did anybody reach out? And I think there were some perhaps comments that we had reached out to them, or at least put the notice.
Yes, thank you, Manager Oliver, for that. It's a very good question. My understanding from Mr. Giesland is that did occur. Is that correct, Mr. Giesland?
Yes, that did occur, and there's an entire stakeholder process that's also involved with this as well, in addition to the formal notices given.
And
right.
And everybody was okay with it then?
Yes.
Okay.
We have. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, we have not heard otherwise. Correct.
Correct.
Katie, Mike. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you, Manager Oliver. Is there a motion at this time then, if there are no other questions or comments?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to move that the board set the FY 2021 Local Provider Participation Fund, parentheses LPPF, in parentheses, mandatory payment rate at 1.66% of net patient revenue of Travis County inpatient hospitals.
Is there a second? Manager Musaitov?
Yes, I second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Manager Bell, a second by Manager Musaitov. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Any abstaining? Okay, thank you very much, members. We are, item number 2 is to discuss and take appropriate action on the fiscal year FY 2021 budget for Sendero Health Plans, Inc. Elizabeth Berenche will be presenting. There will be a short presentation, open session, after which we will go to closed session for the remaining items on the agenda. Elizabeth?
Good evening, everybody. Yes, my name is Elizabeth Barreneche, and I'm with Sendero. We also have on the line Tiara Thomas and Dr. Jennings, COO and CMO for Sendero. Thank you so much for the opportunity tonight to present to you our 2021 budget. We would like, I don't know if the slides are up, but if, would somebody be presenting the slides? Thank you so much. So we will be going over our financials for 2019, 2020, and then present just to go over the history, and then go on with our 2021 summary. Can everybody see this okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So going from left to right, we have the 2019 financial statements final, and our total revenue. The main things to point out was
Did we just lose Elizabeth? Elizabeth, are you there?
Did you lose? I am here. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
I can now.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Okay. So for our 2019 year, the main things to point out is we had a total revenue before risk adjustment of 79.4 million. We received a risk adjustment of 4.5 million, and our total revenue was 83.9 million for 2019. Our total medical expenses were at 61.4 and administrative expenses at 17.8 with a net income for the year of 4.8 million. For 2020, the second column to the right, that was the budget that was approved by the board. We ended up having a very different membership for the year. So I'm moving on to the third column, the 2020 projected, which is where we think we are going to be ending the year. The main things here is that our risk adjustment went up from last year. Last year we received 4.5 million. This year we're expecting to receive 7 million on risk adjustment and our total revenue to be about 85 million. Our total medical expenses have increased by $10 million, a significant increase based on specialty and pharmacy utilization. And our total administrative expenses are at 79.7 million. We're expecting to have a net loss for the year of 7.6 million. This year, we had about the same amount of members, 12,300. And one of the things that are mainly shifting our situation is that higher utilization in specialty and pharmacy, and also the mix of our members. So for 2021, given all of that, we have changed some of our direction, and we have gotten rid of, or not gotten rid, but we have stopped providing some of our plans, and that is going to result in significantly lower membership. So we went from 12,000, almost 13,000 for 2020, and you can see on our 2021 projected, we expect to have about 4,500 members. We will have more information. Yesterday was the last day for open enrollment. We should have more information on that, on the final number by mid-January. So for the 2021 budget that we're presenting to you, we're expecting to have a total revenue for the year of 30.7 million. And that's due to the membership being lower for the year. But as you can see, the risk adjustment was expected to be higher, 12.3 million. And that's mainly driven by our higher risk population, the increase on the higher risk population that we're adding for 2021 to our plan. Our medical expenses are expected to be at 29.9 million. And our administrative expenses are at 15.8 million. We're projecting to have a net loss of 2.6 million. That's a very conservative projection given the lower membership. And one thing to note is that for 2020 and for 2021, Sendero will have enough capital to perform adequate business and to be able to deliver to our high-risk population and continue the mission of Central Health for our 2021 high-risk population and overall membership. And well, I don't know if we want to leave questions for the end, or if we can, or if you want to go over the next slide and then continue with questions. Ms. Greenberg.
I think we'll just continue through your presentation. Thank you very much. Go ahead, please proceed.
Thank you. Okay, so Sendero has identified 3 main areas of opportunity to better align resources for 2021. And those are I mentioned my prior slide is the specialty care. So we are continuing to monitor our increased utilization, and we're also working on some initiatives through provider engagement. We have, as mentioned, to higher pharmacy spending. It's something that not only Sendero is experiencing, it's something that is across many health plans in the country. We are having initiatives with some programs to better manage our high costs, especially in therapeutic classes. And the main one that we're working on currently is in the immunosuppressants. And then on COVID-19, from the very beginning, we had really high intense outreach to our high-risk membership. We are continuing to have that engagement with our members. We also waived all the co-sharing for our members with any expenses related to COVID. And as of tomorrow, our formulary will have the vaccine added to the formulary at no cost to our members. So those are the main things that we will be monitoring for 2021, and look for opportunities in controlling the cost. And with that, if anybody has any questions, and if not, I'm also happy to share more during closed session.
Okay. I believe at this time I announce that the board is convening in closed session to discuss Agenda Item 2 under Texas Government Code Section 551.058, Governing Board of Certain Providers of Healthcare Services. Item 3 under Texas Government Code Section 551.072, Deliberation regarding property. Item 4 under Texas Government Code Section 551.085, Governing Board of Certain Providers of Healthcare Services, and Texas Government Code Section 551.071, Consultation with Attorney. And item 5 under Texas Government Code Section 551.071, Consultation with Attorney. Members, we will need to leave here and go to the information that you were given to join our closed session, correct, David Duncan?
Yes, ma'am. But before we leave, could you read the items? Could you read
yes.
3, 4, 5?
I only read 2. So yes,
Yes,
item 2, discuss and take appropriate action on the fiscal year FY 2021 budget for Sendero Healthcare Plans, Inc. Item number 3, discuss and take appropriate action on Central Health owned or occupied real property and potential property for acquisition, lease, or development in Travis County, including possible amendment of the ground lease for the 2033 Higher Education Development Fund, next steps in the redevelopment of the Central Health downtown campus, administrative offices of Central Health Enterprise Partners, and new developments in Eastern Travis County. I apologize, allergies. I think mold must be high today. All right. Then we have item number 4, receive and discuss the 1115 Medicaid waiver delivery system reform incentive payment, open paren, DSRIP, close paren projects, the Community Care Collaborative and other healthcare delivery partners, programs, projects, arrangements, including agreements with Ascension, Texas. And 5, receive briefing from legal counsel, consider any settlement offers, and take appropriate action regarding Lariman Wallace, the Travis County Healthcare District, DBA Central Health, cause number D-1-G-N-20-006645, open paren, Travis County District Court, close paren. Are we now ready to go to closed session?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you, members.
Chair, can you give us 2 minutes? I just have
Of course. Of course. Let's take a few minutes to take care of anything we need to. All right. See you in a few minutes. Thank you. Do we have everyone assembled?
Yes, ma'am, you have a quorum.
Okay, so we have completed our closed session. It is Wednesday, December 16th, 2020, and the time is 8:17 p.m. Item number 3.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I believe item number 2, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, you're right. Item number 2, discuss and take appropriate action on the fiscal year FY 2021 budget for Sendero Health Plans, Inc. Members, do we have any motions? Manager Musaitev?
Yes, I move that the board approve the fiscal year 2021 budget for Sendero Health Plans, Inc. as required by Article 3 of the Sendero bylaws.
Thank you. We have a motion by Manager Musaitev. Is there a second? Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Manager Zamora. Is there any discussion at this point?
I have a few questions.
Yes, Manager Oliver, please.
You know, I know we talked about some of this in the closed session as part of our, these were some of the questions I had before we went in. And I think it's just important that we explain in open session what, why we're losing 8,400 members, and what plans were eliminated, and why administrative expenses are not going down.
Yes, Manager Oliver, I share those concerns. Do we have someone here to address those questions?
Excuse me, sorry to interrupt, but Manager Bell has been kicked off the meeting. He's trying to rejoin.
Okay,
Sorry.
so we must pause and wait for Manager Bell to join. I know there have been a lot of connectivity problems this evening. At one point, I lost my voice, not literally, but figuratively through Ring Central. So let's wait for Manager Bell. Manager Bell, thank you. I know there were there have been a lot of technical issues tonight for many of us. He has reappeared. So Manager Oliver had a question, pardon me, please, regarding some of the issues that appeared from the slides that were shared before we went into the closed session regarding the significant loss of members and some administrative costs. And I believe that we had asked for those questions to be answered. I share those concerns. So, well, do we have someone here to answer this? I cannot hear you, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, if you are trying to address them, we cannot hear you. We still cannot hear you. You may need to take off your headset. Lots of technical issues tonight.
While Elizabeth is addressing technical difficulties, I'd like to provide a little bit of commentary that hopefully Manager Oliver, it's not specifically responsive, but it generally is. I think some of the administrative expenditures that I saw, when you consider the decrease in membership, it does create a much higher or generate a much higher percentage of administrative expenditures. It did appear that what Sendero was trying to do was line those up with the actuals from this year. And so you go back and look at it budget to budget and then budget to actual. It did seem like there were some adjustments, but still I think comment on what Dr. Bell and actually, I'm not sure what I was said in closed session, but I'll just keep it general to my observation is that I think the continued scrutiny, but also having a second actuarial opinion. I know that's something that Jeff and I talked about even prior to this meeting, and coming back to the board and discussing the business plan. The budget just allows the organization to have something to obviously tie its expenditures to the business plan discussion that we would need to have after the first of the year. I think we'll get to some of the very issues that you're raising in much more specific detail.
So, Mr. Giesman, I understand that Sendero is on a calendar year, so this is the end of your budget year. But what you're saying is
Correct.
after this, we would be hearing more about a business plan. We'd be getting a second actuarial opinion and some additional information.
And this is all standard in any kind of insurance operation where you always look at your business plan and get your actuarial opinions and figure out what the next course looks like.
Okay, Elizabeth, are you prepared to respond?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Yes,
Perfect.
we can.
Thank you. Okay, so to answer the first, and I'm sorry, I missed some of what Mike was saying, but to answer some of the questions that were raised, we stopped offering 6 of our bronze plans. That was a choice made by Sendero, but since you remember that in the past, Sendero was one of the very few carriers in the market. Now we are happy that there are more carriers that are offering service, and there is a more competitive market. So that gives us an opportunity to be more focused on the population that we're serving and the central health mission going forward. We do still offer some plans that the members can choose, and we are offering all the metal levels that CMS requires. And obviously, we're happy to have as many members as we can, but with a tight competitive market, is not always the case. In terms of the administrative costs and why we're not expecting, or we brought this in the budget for your review without many concessions, is because we think that we're still going to need a lot of the staff to be able to perform all those duties that we need with the high risk population. And we have increased that population for 2021. Now, that's not to say that that's what the number will be at the end of the year. We will continue monitoring and making adjustments as necessary and as possible. But we feel that at this point, with the information that we have, we don't have enrollment finalized. We still have many things up in the air, especially when we set this budget. So this is a very conservative budget that we brought forward. We will be keeping a very close eye on those administrative costs and making sure that we can minimize the costs where possible without impacting the health of our members and the service that we provide to the community.
Members, do we have any additional questions at this time?
Can I have Jeff also clarify that they are going to be monitoring the financials? Because my concern was the expenses look really, really high considering we had a 65% drop off in
Right.
members. We're only having a 20% drop off in expense. Jeff, I just want you, for folks who are watching, just so that they know
And
that.
I would, Mandra, if you don't mind, I'd like to add to that, how frequently will this board be updated regarding this monitoring, and when would we hope to have the additional actuarial opinion?
So let me start out. Yes, we will be monitoring, I guess, in my capacity as Central Health CFO, and then Dr. Bell and I are also board members of Sendero, and there will be regular meetings where we get in depth in that. The actuarial study, the secondary or concurring actuarial review that Mr. Giesland was alluding to, I think is pretty close to being completed. I hope that we can bring that back next quarter and start the discussion, and also come back. I think generally we know we know about what's called effectuation, or actual members by the end of January, right? So I would expect us to be back. If I had to kind of lay out what I think we'll be doing, we'll probably be reporting back on the high-risk enrollment in January, and then beginning February, we'll start reporting on overall enrollment, and then I think we'll be briefing the board, the Central Health Board at their will on the financial status, the actual financial expenses of Sendero on an ongoing basis.
Thank you. Members, anything else at this time? We have a motion and a second on the table. I want to make sure there are no other questions before I call for vote. I'm not seeing any. Raise your hand or shout out, please. Okay. So at this time, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Same sign. Any abstaining? Not seeing any. Okay, thank you, members. So our next item, item number 3, discuss and take appropriate action on Central Health owned or occupied real property and potential property for acquisition, lease, or development in Travis County, including possible amendment of the ground lease with the 2033 Higher Education Development Fund, next steps in the redevelopment of the Central Health downtown campus, administrative offices of Central Health Enterprise Partners, and new developments in Eastern Travis County. Is there a motion that we have on this?
Yes, can I entertain
Yes,
a motion?
Andrew Masaitev, please.
I move that the board delegate to the president and CEO authority to negotiate and execute an amendment to the ground lease with the 2033 Higher Education Development Fund.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Manager Oliver? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion, members? Any discussion or questions on this? Not seeing any. So we'll move to a vote. I'm announcing that out of an abundance of caution, I am choosing to abstain from this vote since I am a professor at the LBJ School of Public Affairs at the University of Texas at Austin. So all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Abstaining, I abstain. All right, members, thank you very much. Our next item is item number 4, receive and discuss the 1115 Medicaid Waiver Delivery System Reform Incentive Payment, open paren, DSRIP, close paren projects, the Community Care Collaborative, and other healthcare delivery partners, programs, projects, and arrangements, including agreements with Ascension, Texas. Members, there is no motion necessary. So just want everyone to know that there is no motion necessary on this item. So we will then move on to agenda item number 5. Agenda item number 5, receive briefing from legal counsel, consider any settlement offers, and take appropriate action regarding Lariman Wallace v. Travis County Healthcare District, DBA Central Health, cause number D-1-G-N-20-006645, paren, Travis County District Court, closed paren. Members, is there anyone who wants to make a motion on this item? Manager Bell?
Yes, I move that the board delegate to the president and CEO authority to negotiate and execute a final settlement and release of claims for the reference lawsuit.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, there is a motion by Manager Bell and a second by Manager Oliver. Is there any discussion or questions? Okay, I am not seeing or hearing any. So we will go ahead and move to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Any abstaining? Manager Musaitis is abstaining. All right, thank you very much, members. At this point, I think we can move to item number 6. Confirm the next regular board meeting date, time, and location. Managers, our next Central Health Board of Managers meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, January 27th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. at the Central Health Administrative Offices, 1111 East Cesar Chavez Street, Austin, Texas, 78702, and or remotely by video conference, depending on the status of the governor's disaster declaration and stay-at-home orders. At this time, I'm ready to accept a motion for adjournment.
Madam Chair, I move adjournment.
There's a motion for adjournment. Is there a second? A motion by Manager Bell, second by Manager Oliver. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Abstaining. All right. We are adjourned. I want to thank all of the members and staff and residents. We deeply appreciate your participation. Have a happy and healthy holiday season, everyone. Thank you so much.
Same to you
Thank
all.
you all. Happy
Take care.
holidays.
Thank you, members. Happy
Good night.
holidays.